Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel, and today I have something a bit different than my usual content. I just recently got, my birthday just went by, and back in February, and one of the gifts I received was this Minchiate Tarot from my sister, and I didn't even realize that these decks existed. This is actually a, most decks are 78 cards. This is actually a 97 card deck, and it includes a lot of extra cards that the traditional or the decks we're used to, the tarot decks we're used to, don't contain. So I'm gonna go through that deck. And so in order to use the Minchiate Tarot cards, it's not so straightforward, is something that I realized very quickly. So there's not I tried to look up instructions online for systems or methods for reading this deck, and I didn't come away from that search with very much information. And it seems to me that it's a sort of, you sort of form your own eclectic approach to reading these cards, if you will. So you pull from different different sources of information. So one guide that I did manage to find, I'm gonna link this down below, came from thequeensword.com, and it was titled How to Read with the Minchiate Florentine. So it gives a bit of a guide, and it basically encourages you to approach it with an open mind, since it's different from the other decks, from say the Marseille or the Rider-Waite or the Thoth. So the reason I have these laid out here is because I'm going to talk about why I purchased this Marseille tarot book in order to use along with the Minchiate Tarot deck. So I have all the major arcana here of the Marseille Tarot laid out, because what's interesting about this deck too is the majors. Not only are there, I think, 40 or 41 of them, but they also come in a different order. So there's 40, yeah, I think 41 majors in all. And one of the pieces of advice that was given at the Queen's Sword, that website, was that if you know how to read the Marseille Tarot, which I don't yet, hence the book, you can apply what you know from reading that deck to an extent to reading the Minchiate Tarot. So I'll set this aside for a second, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you guys these cards. So there's 79 of them. It's quite chunky. This is actually, I should mention this, this Minchiate deck seem to be hard to get, and if you can get them, they're fairly pricey. This Minchiate deck was a version that came from Spencer's Gifts, and so this was under $30, I believe. And it says, known as the Tarot of the Renaissance, the Minchiate Tarot deck traces its roots back to 16th century Florence, Italy, widely known as the birthplace of tarot. This deck is a unique must-have addition to any collection and contains 97 cards. So, yeah, I had seen this in the store, and I just thought, oh, it's probably just a different type of Marseille, or, you know, one of the older decks. I never picked it up and checked it out to discover there were 97 cards. So I have to thank my sister for bringing this to my attention. It's like, I can't believe that this was never on my radar, that I never even, you know, it never came across my radar ever. It's just strange to me. But I'm gonna go through these, and I'm gonna show you, if you're familiar with the Marseille Tarot, it's kind of interesting to compare this deck with the order of the cards. So we have Le Mat at the very end here. So the first card in this deck is actually the Madman here. It's unnumbered. So I'm going to go through, and I'm going to show you just how many majors this deck contains. It's very different from the usual deck. So I'm going to see, sorry for the shadows here. Still have not perfected my work environment the way I would like to have it. So hopefully that's focusing. We'll focus okay when I sit down. And so let's go through them here to show these. So we have the Madman as the first card. The Magician here is number 1. And normally you would expect, as in the Marseille or the Rider-Waite, card number 2 major is usually the High Priestess or La Papesse in the Marseille deck. But here we have the Empress as number 2, when the Empress is normally number 3 in the decks we're used to. So continuing on, number 3 is the Pope, which I believe is supposed to be, or well, not supposed to, but it would correspond to what we think of as the Hierophant, perhaps. The history of this deck too is something that the Queen's Sword mentions is something worth digging into, because the exclusion of a High Priestess in this deck has a lot to do with the socio-political, religious events at the time in the 16th century in Florence and in Italy, so, and beyond that. So we have number 3 is the Pope. So you see the problem already of, if you read with Marseille, you see already the issue with perhaps taking the first 10 cards of the Marseille and sort of applying their energies or filtering their energies through the minor arcana of the ace through to the 10s, the 10s in all 4 suits. It's, you know, it's, so basically what I have to decide is how I'm going to read with them. I'm going to have to come up with a method and approach that makes sense to me. And I can already see from reading with the Marseille, you'll see when I show you the pips, their non-illustrated pips, and also the forgetting things here. Oh, the court cards. There we go. So the Emperor, the Lovers comes in as number, there we go. The Emperor is still number 4, which would make sense to me. The Lovers, it becomes the 5, and then we have 6 is the Temperance card. So instead of the Lovers, you have Temperance as number 6. Some of them get moved forward by 1 position because of the exclusion of the Empress, or sorry, because of the exclusion of the High Priestess in number 2. So now we have as 7 Strength instead of the Chariot. Justice is number 8. And instead of the Hermit being number 9, we have the Wheel of Fortune as number 9. The Chariot appears as 10 instead of its position of 7. The Hermit becomes number 11. Interestingly. And they've put names on some of these, because on all of these, because I think in the Minchiate Tarot, I think it is, if I'm saying that right. I don't believe that edition has any names on them, because I don't think the original versions of these were numbered cards. It was originally a card game and was not made for divination purposes. So we have the Hermit here as 11, and then we have number 12, which is the Hanged Man. And they labeled this as Death, although in the Marseille, this card is usually not labeled as Death. And then we have the Devil as 14 instead of Temperance. We have the House of the Devil as 15 here. And then this is where it gets interesting. This deck contains 4 virtues, so bear with me on this. So we have hope, prudence, faith, and charity. And then it goes into element cards. So we have fire, water, and notice they're numbered. It's continuing. Earth, and air. And this deck also contains 12 cards for the 12 signs of the zodiac. So we have Libra, Virgo, Scorpio, Aries, Capricorn, Sagittarius, Cancer, Pisces, Aquarius, Leo, Taurus, and Gemini. And now, it's only now after all of those that we come to the star card here. And I believe it's the star, the sun, and the moon are not, you notice there's no numbers on these cards. And I think that's pretty standard for Minchiate Tarot decks. So the star, the moon, the sun. And then finally we get to the world card at the end here. Also no numbers on that. And this is usually thought of the trumpets as judgment. In this system, the Minchiate, we have the world card followed by the trumpets or the judgment card. That is the proper order of those cards, interestingly enough. And then this is the part where we get, so the main problem I am facing right now is how would I like to read the major arcana in this deck? Because if I'm going to go through the let's just go through the ace of the wand suit here just for a moment, just to give you an idea of what the pips look like. So you have the ace, and then you have some animals and other figures here. 2 of clubs. I'm not sure what's going on, what's up with the dots either. Some sources I looked at said they were just glue that maybe got left behind. I don't know if that was in this. The images in this particular deck look to me like they are based on the Minchiate Alcino, if I'm saying that correctly, that particular version, which I think, I don't know if it's Le Scarabeo or Llewellyn, or one publisher I think is going to be having some other decks coming out, that the Minchiate deck coming out in a couple of months, I believe, that resembles the style of this one, the way it's drawn very, very closely. The coloring is different, and it looks a little bit, the coloring of this deck looks very, you know, almost like a young kid, maybe a 10, 11-year-old could have done it or something. But let's carry on with these. So we have 3, 4, 5, and you can see how this is very close to Marseille. 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. So we have the Jack of Clubs, the Knight of Clubs, the Queen of Clubs, and the King of Clubs. And then same with the coins, we have this sort of Marseille type presentation. And so I have no problem sort of learning the new system of Marseille and that system of interpretation which emphasizes numerology and the direction of the figures in the cards, and sort of reading it like a sequence when you lay the cards down. I have no issue with that. I think that would be a good approach. But the interesting thing would be if, say, the 2s are supposedly in Marseille normally represented by the, you know, the energy of the high priestess or the papesse would normally filter through the 2s, the interpretation of the meaning of the high priestess with the meaning of 2 in numerology in the Marseille tradition. It's going to have to be read. So my choices are, you know, do I read these based on the Marseille high priestess, the papesse, or do I choose to, since they renumbered, number 2 is the Empress, do I start to figure out a new way that the numerology of 2 could be perhaps tied into what the Empress means or could mean? It becomes interesting trying to, and maybe again looking into the history might shed some light on how those majors are to be read as well. And that is something that, again, the website The Queen's Sword suggested. So yeah, I have this as basically a guide for myself so far, all on one sheet of the order of the cards, the first 10 cards that would be applied to the with the numerology of the Marseille to read these. But I'm curious if anybody has any ideas or suggestions about how you would approach reading a deck like this, or if you do read with a Minchiate Tarot deck, because I have never seen anybody reading with one that I can remember until my sister bought this for me. I had never seen it. And normally I'm a person who's not really super stoked about learning new systems, and that's not how I felt about this, though. I'm actually pretty excited to, maybe because it's such a challenge as well, try and figure out a way to read with these, because it's just so different. And I don't think that knowing the Marseille tarot tradition and approach to reading is a bad thing at all. I know I've heard that, you know, people who like reading with Marseille cards love reading with them. Like, they say, no, this is the system for me, never mind the Rider-Waite, man. You know, like, people have their preferences. But I am, just the fact that this is, like, the numbering on these, the addition of the zodiac cards, the addition of the element cards, like, there's so much potential in this for reading the extra virtues, right? Because there are 4 extra virtues, because I believe strength, temperance, and yeah, because the tarot we're used to, the traditional tarot, already contains, what is it, strength, the strength card, the temperance card, and the, whatever, there's the last one, the justice card. So that would be 7 virtues in all. Again, we have the Tower, called the House of the Devil. Sometimes this card's also called the House of God. Yeah, there's quite a few numbers that are rearranged here, not just because of the exclusion of the High Priestess card, but apparently some of these as well were labeled like the Pope of the East and the Pope of the West in the Minchiate cards and so on. So there's a lot that goes into it. There's a lot, but I mean, I'm willing to do it. I think it would be an interesting experiment to see just how I could learn to read with these cards. And so, yeah, if you guys have any suggestions about how, if you were given a deck like this and you were tasked with the challenge of learning to create, you know, having to create a system to read with, what would your approach be? I'm curious, because I'm open to all and any suggestions. With this, to me, this should be not something that I take, you know, so seriously that I can't have fun with it, but seriously enough that I'd like to develop a approach to reading that is it's going to be useful and helpful, like in like what I've done already. So this is the book that I ended up buying. I know I asked over on Instagram a couple of people to make some suggestions, so thank you for those. I'm going to start with this book here. Seems pretty comprehensive, full color, lots of different sections here. We have a pretty good breakdown of everything you would need to know here, divided up in these sections here. So I'm looking forward to, especially with the major cards, and then also with the numerology and so on, just see what's different with the numerology and the number symbolism in Marseille as compared to the Rider-Waite wait. So that's all I have for now, guys. And yeah, give me your suggestions or even your thoughts or anything that came to mind while you were watching this. And, you know, like I said, I'm not normally somebody who is gung-ho, you know, like, yeah, I want to learn a new system, totally new, you know, way of, like, some people I know are not into that. But in this particular case, I want to try it. I want to see how far I can get with this. So yeah, thank you for watching. And if you enjoyed this video, please remember to like and subscribe and all that other great social media stuff. And thank you for your support. And I will see you again soon with I'm going to be combining the February and March forecast since I didn't get to those last month. I haven't been feeling the greatest energetically. It's been really hard to get stuff done, and so we'll see what's going on with that health-wise, but everything should be fine. And I will get on those monthly element forecast readings and energy readings as soon as I can. So thank you very much for spending time with me. And yeah, please leave your thoughts below. I'd really like to hear what you guys think of this little experiment, this little undertaking I'm gonna do. Okay, so have a good one.